All right, guys, let's fire it up because I'm going to get ready to take it for a drive around the block, make sure it runs good. You know, I had a problem at the strip where I let off the tranny brake and it didn't go anywhere. I mean, it went forward, but it didn't hold. So I don't know what the deal was. It's one of those electrical things I hate if I don't find something. I tighten the wires on the trans brake button with a cord that's flexible. That's old too. Like the battery in this car is 12 years old. That's older than that. So you always worry about a broken wire. Underneath, there's another wire that hooks to the solenoid. That thing's kind of hard. I had a problem with that once, like in 2006, and fixed it at the track. Never touched it since, so I'm kind of worried about it, but I at least need to drive it and see what it does. But it hasn't been started since September 10th. When Charlie Kirk got shot, we were at the track that day. So let's see if she fires up. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm pretty psyched. So I just started up. You saw me start the car up and warm it up. And after I got out of the car and I was looking at it, I looked over at the MSD box and there's a little red light. Now normally that's on steady all the time. I remember seeing it many times. But I looked at it and the thing was like just flickering back and forth. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I revved it up. I might even took video of it. I revved it up and I was looking at the thing and then it would go solid. I'm like, something is not right. So I did a quick search on it, started reading about it, where guys were saying the coil was bad, or they said loose connection, you know, the box is bad, the usual stuff. So I said, I gotta check this out. So I went ahead and I looked at all the wires, I unplugged them, put them all back together, they all seemed tight. And I went over to the coil wire, and I went and pushed it on. And when I pushed it on, it went click and locked in. Now these are fire core wires by Rick Gorski. I'm telling you, best wires I ever had. And they click in, they are solid when it clicks. And that thing was not hooked on. I'm wondering if that's why when I was driving down the strip after the tranny brake didn't work, if that had a problem with it, voltage or something. And I just noticed it just wasn't running right. I was like, something is not right. So I'm like so ecstatic that I found an issue. And what I did was I took this coil wire off and put it on that engine right here. That's how I've been running that thing, is with the coil wire from this initially. And then I found an old coil wire, and actually a fire core that I got from Rick, that I plugged in, and it's been working fine since then. But when I put that wire back on, I must not have clicked it tight. So, I don't know, I'm pretty pumped about that. I saw that light flash, I'm like, great, now I'm gonna get an MSD box, go through that. So, check the little things first, man. Make sure the wiring's tight, and make sure that the coil wire is tight. So last week on 9/11, RIP, I went to APD, Advanced Product Design, and did a video with John Kyle, the owner, on air bleed tuning. It's a series that we're doing. It's pretty complicated, and I'm getting a better learning on that topic, because I had no clue on air bleeds. But speaking of that, while I was there, we were talking, and you saw in the video that he had a twin blade carburetor that he was working with and developing. Now, it's already been developed by a guy named Mike Laws. Thanks, Mike. He worked for BLP. His father was Bo Laws. That's Bo Laws Performance. So John Kyle and APD make the only patented version. There may be some knockoffs out there, but they're not patented. This has the patent numbers on it. So we were talking about the Cougar. The carburetor you see there is a Pro Systems I got. It's a 4150,000 CFM. Now, I've been using that carburetor, I'm telling you, for well over 20 years. And it's been a great carburetor. You know, they say carburetors are like women. When you get one, don't let it go. So I won't let it go, but I'm going to put it somewhere to rest. Now, that thing has been flawless. I've got a 932 out of this engine, 409 cubic inches, a Ford 351 Cleveland, and I want a 920. So that time that I had was done in great air, mine shaft conditions, and that's coming up. So John was talking about this carburetor, the Pro Systems. He said, listen, you may benefit from this twin blade carburetor right here that APD has. It's made for high horsepower, small cubic inch engines. He said, I think it's going to help. So he said, let me whip one up, and you can come back and pick it up. So I went and picked it up the other day, and I'm telling you, it's a work of art. Let me show it to you. Now, it's 1200 CFM, but it's an ordinary 4150 carburetor as far as the way it bolts on. It's got dual 50cc accelerator pumps. This does have a 4.5 inch power valve in it. So there's the twin blade. I don't like carrying this thing around and holding it like that, but look at that. So that's the key right there, twin blade. So I'm excited to use this. I can tell you, I bet you it picks up my 60 foot. I don't know, I just got a feeling. That 25-year-old carburetor and now this work of art, it's got to make a difference. So what do you guys think? Think it's going to pick up? Yeah, so do I. It's even a lot lighter than that Pro Systems. And that's the thing. How do we know? Unless we try it. So like you've seen from my videos, I'm into trying new things and technology to see if I can make my combination a little bit faster. So I'm willing to try this out and see how it works. It's basically, I think Joey told me it was an 850 base plate, which is 1 3/4 inch butterflies, meaning it's the same as a regular conventional Holly type pattern. But instead of the divider here, the blades are all one piece. So it'd be interesting to see how this car responds to it. Idles and drives with it too. Now underneath this carburetor, you'll see, when Darin Morgan did this intake, it has a spacer underneath, and we'll show you, that's blended into the plenum, which directs that air right into the plenum. On top of that is a 7-degree AR plate. And I think he was saying that could possibly pick up close to 25 or 30 horsepower, depending on the combination. So I'll show you a good view of that. So let me get this thing ready. Anything, small parts or something. So it just wasn't running right. I mean, something just was not right. And I don't know if that is what affected the trans brake, the way it launched. It really shouldn't. I like it. I like that. You know, when I was a kid driving this car, I didn't have much. Not that I have anything now, but my point is, one thing I could do is make it sound bad and make that exhaust something. Because even if it didn't have anything under the inside the engine, you put the right exhaust, man, it sounds nasty. And that's what I did. Big 2 1/4 inch pipes, which was big to me back then. And I had thrush mufflers that just basically got worn out and is basically straight pipe all the way out with tailpipes out the back, man. And you could hear this thing. I'd come back to my garage where I was keeping it midnight, 1 in the morning, just cruising down these country roads, man. The thing would just be screaming, letting off, and whoa, whoa. So that's why I blipped the throttle, because I like it. I want you to know I'm coming. I don't know why, but that's how I've always done it. So let's pull off this carb. I gotta get something to put this on. I like these little carb stands. They work well, setting them so you're not setting them on the throttle blades or the linkage or anything like that. Let's take a peek at this and I'll show you a couple things that you might not have seen, and one of the reasons I think this thing has great 60-foot times. So I'll give you a better view. Here's what it looks like. Now, one of the things I think that makes this car 60-foot so well and run so well is this 7-degree AR plate, which Darin made when he was in rear at Morrison. So this Ford does have a Chevy part on it, or at least a name. But here's what it looks like. Let me show you. Oops. It's all right. That's what it looks like. So those barrels are 70 degrees, just like my merge collectors. So I'm going to have to make a new gasket on that because that thing's been on there for years. No big deal. I just cut out a Cometic gasket. But there's what it looks like down in there. So that's what it looks like. So this intake made 769. Just the way what you see. Looks pretty good. There's a little staining from the Q16, from the dye or whatever, but it kind of does show you where the fuel's going. So is it bad? No, it's not all crazy concentrated. Maybe a little bit here you can see. But the way this thing runs for now, I ain't worried about it. It's not full of oil in the intake. You can see it's pretty much dry as a bone. So that's what it looks like. So let me make this gasket and we'll get back on this. So I tore that gasket off. Like I said, it's not that big of a deal. I'll tell you what I like are these Cometic gaskets. I'll put the part number on there. CB05004. So, I don't know. I think they just make them well. They're not like some of the Universal Holley stuff that you see. I think Cometic makes a good quality part. Running their HUD gaskets, so I think these carb gaskets are real nice. They're actually a little bit thicker than the normal stuff. And basically, I just have to cut out the perimeter for this to bolt here. Just cut this out around here, and then that'll bolt on this area right here. So I'm going to cover that intake. I don't want nothing going down there while I make this. So I just traced the old one on here, put the perimeter here, and now I'm just going to cut it out. Kind of cut out the 4 holes first to give me some room to work these scissors. And then I'll just cut along the dotted line. It's not really dotted, but that's how I do it. Just cut this out. Sometimes I've used a Dremel tool too to go through here and make it nice and neat. And you can see there isn't much of the gasket after you cut all this out of here. Kind of cutting the corners that make it a little bit difficult, but it's not that bad. Plus I'm doing this on camera. If I don't like this, I got a few of these gaskets. I'll make a better one and make it perfect. But overall, it's better than what I took off. That thing's been on there for, well, I don't know, 2019. But these gaskets cut well. They don't leave a lot of fiber, no little pieces of garbage. The trick is to get a nice pair of scissors that you can cut this with out to form in the corners. These are actually suture scissors. So we used once and threw out, and I kept a pair. There. Good to go. So there's a new gasket in place. You want to make sure that it's trimmed so it's not overhanging in any of this area. I think that's really important. So it took me a little bit cutting. You saw how I cut it, but that thing fits well. So you saw the gasket on there. That looks good. Now we're going to put on the twin blade. I already put on the throttle piece. Make sure that I'm going to probably have to put a couple washers here. Let's see. Yep, that'll be fine. No big deal. Pretty excited. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. It's so hard to go through change, especially when you have something that you've used for so long. For the most part, never had any issues. Not that I'm worried about issues, but it's always something, new territory. It's late, so I doubt I might fire it up. See if it fires up on this. But I'm not gonna go on it driving on a road tonight. I was worried about float hanging up on, at least on that one, if it sits for a while, but this is brand new, so I shouldn't have to worry. I'll just bump a little fuel into it. That looks pretty darn good. So I'll just use this 3/8. I'm not gonna go tight, doesn't need to be that tight. And I'll tell you, carbs don't have to be tight. These studs don't have to be tight at all. Snug them. Don't go crazy. You break the base plate or you warp it. I don't know. I heard it cause harmonics and stuff, so that's how I always looked at it. Don't need to be that tight. They hooked me up with a -6, what I already have on here, which is nice. Perfect. Now the only thing I really have to worry about or check, which I can do, Izzy can help me come out here and push the gas pedal, is to check out the throttle position. Now I can go ahead and push this all the way back and see it should be okay. But you always want to check it, push it to the boards, look down to make sure both throttle blades are open. All right guys, I got the APD Billet Twin Blade installed. It's been a while since I've touched this, and I've been dying to start it up. I said, you know what, today's the day. So I made sure I got fuel going up there and coming out the shooters. So let's fire it up, see how it runs.